Why your brain loves to remember pain. Pain. It's strange, isn't it? How a single memory, a voice, a scent, a song, can reopen wounds you thought had long healed. You're not bleeding anymore, yet somehow, it still hurts. Your brain, this silent observer of your life, keeps replaying the moments that broke you. Not because it wants to punish you, but because it's trying to protect you. Every tear, every heartbreak, every sleepless night is carved deep into its circuits. It whispers, "Remember what hurt you, so it never happens again." But there's a secret hidden in that repetition. The brain doesn't just store pain, it feeds on it. It studies it. It turns it into a survival code. That's why, even years later, when everything seems fine, your mind suddenly drags you back to that day, that moment, that person. Not to destroy you, but to remind you of who you became because of it. Because in the twisted logic of survival, your brain believes that remembering pain is the only way to keep you alive. The question is, how long can you survive by reliving what once almost destroyed you? The scar that never heals. It was late at night when Clara found herself standing in front of the old wooden box again. It had been years since she'd dared to open it, years since she'd buried everything that once defined her. But tonight, something in her chest whispered that she needed to remember. She sat on the floor, the room dimly lit by the faint glow of the city outside her window. Dust floated in the air, catching the light like ghosts of forgotten moments. Slowly, she lifted the lid. Inside were fragments of a life that once felt infinite. Letters, photographs, a tiny silver bracelet. Each object seemed to hum with emotion, as if time itself had soaked into their edges. When her fingers brushed against the old photograph, his smile, her laughter, the world around her blurred. And suddenly, she was back there. The sound of rain against the window. The smell of coffee. The warmth of his hand on hers. The promise that they would never let go. But they did. Her breath trembled as she realized that her brain had stored everything. Not just the images, but the sensations, the tone of his voice, even the silence that came after the last goodbye. For years, she had tried to forget. She changed cities, friends, routines. She convinced herself that time would eventually wash away the pain. But now, sitting on that cold floor, she felt it again, as real and sharp as the day it happened. Why? Why does the mind cling to what hurts? Clara didn't know it yet, but her brain wasn't trying to hurt her. It was trying to protect her. Deep inside the labyrinth of neurons, a mechanism was at work, ancient, primal, and merciless. The human brain is a survivor. It doesn't care about happiness. It cares about safety. When something wounds you deeply, your brain marks it as a threat, a scar that must never be forgotten. So, every time Clara got close to something that reminded her of love, of vulnerability, her brain pulled her back. It whispered, "Be careful. Remember what happened last time." To the brain, pain is not just an emotion, it's a map. A guide to where danger once lived. And yet, as Clara sat there, she noticed something strange. The more she remembered, the more alive she felt. Yes, it hurt, but it was real. The memories that broke her were also the ones that proved she had once lived. There's a paradox hidden inside the human mind. Pain hurts, but it also reminds us that we exist. It gives shape to our story. Without it, life would be hollow, a blank page without meaning. Clara wiped her tears and looked again at the photo. For the first time, she didn't see loss, she saw evidence. Evidence that she had felt deeply, that she had risked herself in the name of something true. Maybe that's why the brain refuses to let go of pain. Because it's through suffering that we learn, evolve, and define who we are. The wound becomes the teacher. The memory becomes the mirror. As the night grew quieter, Clara placed the photo back in the box, not to hide it this time, but to honor it. She understood now that forgetting isn't the same as healing. Healing is remembering without drowning. It's touching the scar and realizing it no longer bleeds. In that moment, she whispered to herself, It still hurts, but I survived. And somewhere deep inside her mind, her brain, that relentless guardian of her pain, finally softened its grip. Because sometimes, remembering the wound is the first step toward forgiving it. The code of survival. The human brain is not designed for peace. It was built to survive, forged through centuries of danger, shaped by fear, and programmed to protect at all costs. Happiness, joy, love, these are luxuries. But pain is information. And the brain never forgets what threatens survival. Inside Clara's head, a silent machine was always working, scanning, recording, comparing. Every scent, every tone of voice, every expression was evaluated, safe or unsafe. She didn't know it consciously, but her brain was always one step ahead of her heart. It remembered the heartbreak like a wound that never closed. Not to torture her, but to warn her. Because in the logic of the mind, pain equals danger, and danger must be avoided. That's the cruel irony of survival. The same mechanism that keeps you alive can also keep you from living. Each time Clara felt her heart opening again, a new friendship, a new love, even a simple act of trust, her brain triggered the old alarm. A faint echo pulsed inside her. Remember what happened before. Don't go there again. It wasn't a voice she could silence. It was chemistry. Deep inside her limbic system, the amygdala, a small, almond-shaped structure, lit up like a warning flare. It recorded every moment of fear, rejection, and loss, burning them into her neural pathways. Meanwhile, the hippocampus, the keeper of memories, replayed the events in perfect detail. The rain on the window, the tremor in his voice, the silence that followed. To the brain, those moments were not the past, they were present dangers. That's why the body reacts as if it's happening again. The heartbeat quickens, the stomach tightens, the chest feels heavy. The memory becomes the moment. This is the code of survival, a biological loop designed to ensure that history doesn't repeat itself. But the code has a flaw. It doesn't understand healing. It doesn't know that Clara is no longer the same person she was when it happened. It doesn't realize that the threat is gone. So it keeps pulling her back into the fire, trying to save her from a ghost. That's how the brain confuses remembering with reliving. Each flash of pain feels real because, in a way, it is real. The brain cannot tell the difference between what you recall and what you experience. The same neurons fire, the same chemicals flood your body. It's a movie that never ends, replayed not for pleasure, but for protection. But protection has its cost. It traps you in the past. It makes you fear what you once desired. Clara began to notice how often her mind betrayed her. A kind word from someone new would suddenly remind her of him. A song she once loved now made her chest ache. The present kept turning into the past. And then she understood something profound. Her brain wasn't the enemy. It was a soldier following old orders. It was trained to remember pain, not peace. To survive, she had to reprogram it. Not by erasing the memories, but by teaching her brain that safety can also exist after pain. She began to breathe slowly when fear rose. She told herself, "This is now." That was then. Each time she did, the alarms grew quieter. The neural circuits began to shift, slowly, gently, rewriting the code. Because the truth is, the brain can learn new meanings, but only if we show it what safety feels like. The code of survival can't be deleted, but it can be rewritten. And for Clara, that was the beginning of freedom. The moment she realized that remembering pain doesn't have to mean reliving it. It can mean learning from it. Pain teaches the brain how to survive, but wisdom teaches it how to live. Chapter 3. The Invisible Pleasure of Suffering. There's a strange paradox buried deep within the human mind. Pain hurts, yet part of us keeps returning to it. Clara noticed this the more she tried to move on. She'd delete his photos, stop listening to their song, focus on work, yet something always pulled her back. A scent in the air, a familiar melody, a quiet night alone, and suddenly the ache would return. At first, she thought it was punishment, her mind's cruel way of keeping her trapped. But the truth was darker and far more fascinating. The brain doesn't just record pain. It craves it, in small, secret doses. Every time Clara remembered what she'd lost, her brain released tiny drops of dopamine, the same chemical that appears when we expect something meaningful or rewarding. It wasn't joy she was feeling. It was significance. The brain loves what feels important, and nothing feels more important than what hurt us deeply. That's the hidden addiction to pain. The emotional weight makes life feel real. Without it, the world seems flat, like a photograph without depth. So even as Clara told herself to forget, another part of her kept whispering, "Remember." Because that moment mattered. It's the same reason people replay sad songs, revisit places of heartbreak, or scroll through old messages knowing it will hurt. In those moments, they feel connected to something raw and alive, even if it's pain. That's the secret pleasure of suffering. It reminds us that we once felt everything. When life becomes numb, pain becomes proof. Our brains, in their twisted logic, treat emotional pain like a story worth retelling. It's a loop of meaning, a chemical echo saying, "This mattered. Don't forget who you were when you felt this." And Clara began to see that the sorrow she carried wasn't only about loss, it was about identity. The pain had become part of her story. Without it, she wasn't sure who she'd be. It's a trap many fall into. We confuse healing with forgetting, and we confuse pain with depth. But real healing isn't about erasing what happened, it's about detaching the pleasure from the suffering. Because yes, there is pleasure in it, not in a sadistic way, but in a meaningful way. The brain rewards the memory of pain because it feels like connection, like proof that something real existed. That's why nostalgia can feel both sweet and unbearable. Why we romanticize the moments that destroyed us. Why we secretly revisit them again and again, even when we swear we've moved on. Pain is emotional gravity. It keeps us grounded in the past, tied to the moment where we once felt alive. But what Clara slowly began to understand was this. The same brain that links pain with meaning can be taught to find meaning in peace. It just needs new evidence, new memories that feel equally real, equally alive, but free from the sting of suffering. That's how transformation begins. By realizing that your pain was never proof of your worth. It was just a signal that you loved deeply, that you cared enough to be wounded. And once you accept that, the pain loses its addictive sweetness. It stops being a story of loss, and becomes a reminder of your capacity to feel. Clara looked at her reflection one night and whispered, "I miss who I was when I loved, but I don't miss the pain that came with it." And in that moment, she felt something shift. As if her brain, for the first time, allowed her to keep the lesson without the suffering. Because the real power isn't in remembering the pain. It's in understanding that you no longer need it to feel alive. When pain becomes a prison. At first, Clara thought remembering was healing. She believed that facing her pain made her stronger, that by understanding it, she was breaking free. But over time, she realized something unsettling. The more she tried to understand her wounds, the deeper she sank into them. Every night became a quiet battle. Her mind replayed scenes she no longer wanted to see, words said in anger, moments of loss, the silence after the door closed for the last time. She wasn't choosing to remember anymore. Her brain was doing it for her. And that's when the truth revealed itself. She wasn't remembering to heal. She was remembering to survive. The brain, in its endless effort to protect, had built a cage. Every painful memory was a bar, every fear a lock. It whispered, "Stay inside. The world outside this pain is dangerous." It was the code of survival gone wrong. A system designed to defend her that had slowly turned into her prison. Whenever something good happened, a smile from a stranger, a kind word, a spark of new affection, she felt a rush of panic. Her chest tightened. Her thoughts screamed, "Don't trust this. The mind that once saved her was now holding her hostage. That's what trauma does when it goes unresolved. It teaches the brain that comfort is a lie, that safety is an illusion, that love will always end in loss. So the brain does what it knows best. It prepares for impact before anything even happens. It recalls the worst moments, floods the body with fear, and convinces you that pain is the only truth. And slowly, pain becomes familiar. It becomes home. For Clara, this was the hardest truth to face. That she had grown comfortable in her suffering. Because pain, no matter how heavy, is predictable. It doesn't surprise you. It doesn't leave. But peace. Peace is unfamiliar. It requires trust, vulnerability, the courage to step outside the walls you built. And the brain hates the unknown more than it hates pain. So it keeps you replaying, reliving, rebleeding. Not because it's cruel, but because it believes it's keeping you safe. The real prison isn't the memory itself. It's the fear of feeling that memory again. Clara began to see this pattern everywhere. The way she pulled away from people who cared. The way she sabotaged moments of joy. The way she clung to loneliness because at least it was familiar. She was addicted to safety, even if that safety lived inside her pain. It's a tragic paradox of the human mind. We build walls to protect ourselves, then forget how to live outside them. One night, as she lay awake, Clara whispered into the dark, "If pain is my prison, who am I without it?" The silence that followed felt heavier than the memories themselves. For the first time, she understood that the door to her freedom was already open. But stepping through it meant letting go of who she had become inside. And that's the terrifying part of healing. To escape the prison, you must leave behind the version of yourself that pain created. The mind resists. It screams. It clings. Because beyond the cage, there's no script, only uncertainty. But somewhere deep down, another voice, quiet and almost forgotten, began to speak. It didn't sound like fear. It sounded like hope. It said, "You've suffered enough to know what hurts. Now it's time to learn what feels safe." And for the first time, Clara felt something shift inside her. The walls didn't vanish, but a crack appeared. A small fracture where light could finally enter. Because even the strongest prisons begin to crumble. The moment you realize you were the one holding the key. The power to heal what the brain can't forget. The night was quiet. The kind of silence that feels sacred, like the world has paused to let you breathe. Clara sat by her window, the same place where her pain had once consumed her, but this time, something was different. The air didn't feel heavy. Her thoughts didn't echo like storms. She opened the same old box one last time. The letters were still there. The photos. The bracelet. But the memories no longer burned. They simply existed. She smiled faintly. For years, she thought healing meant erasing the pain, cleansing the past until nothing remained. But now she understood. Healing wasn't forgetting. It was remembering differently. Because the brain never truly deletes pain. It archives it, stores it deep within neural paths, wrapped in emotion and meaning. And for the longest time, that meaning had been lost. But what if meaning could be rewritten? What if pain could be retold as proof of endurance, not destruction? That was Clara's quiet revelation. She realized that the memories didn't change, she did. And the new version of her could look back without collapsing. The brain is a storyteller. It weaves emotions into every memory, coloring them with the shades of the person we were at that moment. But when we change, when we grow, forgive, and understand, the story can change too. So Clara began to rewrite her own. Each time her mind replayed the old scenes, she whispered, "That was me learning, not breaking. That pain was my teacher. That ending gave birth to who I am now." Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, had been waiting for her to make that choice. Each new interpretation laid down a new pathway. Each act of compassion softened an old scar. The same circuits that once carried fear began to carry understanding. She wasn't fighting her brain anymore. She was teaching it. That's the true power of awareness. The moment you realize that your thoughts aren't commands, they're patterns. And patterns can be changed. Slowly, the ache that once felt endless began to fade into something softer, almost beautiful. Pain transformed into wisdom. Loss became space for growth. And the cage that once held her became the foundation she now stood on. One morning, Clara took the photo, the one that had haunted her the most, and placed it on her desk. Not hidden, not locked away, but in the light. She whispered, "You were part of my story, but not the end of it." And for the first time, the memory didn't pull her backward. It stood beside her, a quiet witness to her transformation. The brain had done its job. It had protected her through chaos. But now, she didn't need protection, she needed peace. And so, she gave her brain new instructions. "We're safe now. You can rest." Tears came, but they weren't painful. They were release. Proof that even what the brain refuses to forget can be healed when the heart decides to forgive. Because healing isn't about deleting the past. It's about reclaiming your power to define it. Clara closed the box for the last time. Not to bury the past, but to bless it. She stood by the window, the morning sun spilling across her face, and breathed deeply. The memories were still there, but now they carried light. The same moments that once broke her now reminded her of her strength. Her brain hadn't forgotten the pain. It had simply learned to remember it with love. The wound became wisdom. The memory became meaning. And the girl who once feared remembering finally learned how to live.